think that poetry always offered the opportunity to break out a little bit more. It had kind of ventriloquism to me that allowed you to jump into a lot of different voices.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to see some different personas tonight.
Yeah, and and I think that even when I was doing more of it in the early '90s, it appealed to me because I've kind of had a long-standing argument with myself about identity, and it was a way to, at that time, kind of dance around it, and kind of navigate Mexican identity, and the playfulness came in being able to, I think, just jump into a lot of different skins.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's a little bit of why. What do you want your poetry to do? If it's working the way you want it to do, what is it doing for the reader?
Entertaining them. I think making them laugh is a good thing. That's a much harder question, maybe like with pop music, there can be a good hook to it.
But there's a lot more going on than those hooks.
Yeah. I guess to pop in a playful way, to again entertain. If I'm really honest, what would I want it to, again, the word ventriloquism is kind of to show that you can cover a lot of different points of view, a lot of different kinds of skins you can be in. I think, because I love the absurd, I think that when it's working well also, it has a kind of ticklish unexpectedness.
Okay.
Just the ability to say, where did that come from, or boy, that's really silly, but in a way that maybe shifts your perception of the world a little bit.
Okay.
And not all of them are funny, but I think that kind of off-kilter quality is something that I like for poems to try to do.
When did you start writing?
Oh God, you mean creative writing?
Sure. Either way. Not when you learned how to write A, B, C, but right after that.
I've always written, and it's because my dad was always, I think, a writer who never really got to publish. But I always think of 1986 as the year that somebody here actually gave me permission.
Wow, how'd that work?
I took a creative writing class at the University with Laura Furman. She was very supportive. Told me that I had something that I should try to work on, and it's been about a good 30 more years.
And early on, well, let's do a two-part. Early on and then
Sure.
today.
Yeah.
Who are some of the writers that thrilled you or encouraged you or wanted to pursue their style, that kind of thing?
Well, James A.G. was the first writer that I fell in love with, and this was about 6th grade.
book?
A Death in the Family. And then there was another book that my dad had called James A.G.'s Letters to Father Fly.
Oh, I don't know that.
And James A.G. was a Tennessee writer who is just wonderfully lyrical. I mean, you know, it's like the King James Bible runs in his veins, and his stuff was so gorgeous, especially A Death in the Family, that it was the first kind of writing that made me swoon, and so early on, it was a lot of James A.G. And poetry,
Sure, absolutely.
Frank O'Hara,
Yeah, okay, why?
pop culture,
Mhm.
that playfulness, that ability to take in the modern world around you, and kind of that ability to present something that looks artless on the page, you know.
Then you look at it,
Yeah, no,
it's
he's
19th, 20th time. So.
yeah.
Yeah, you can see that in your poetry with the jet and the sullen monkey, and yeah, you're not afraid to incorporate the real world as opposed to, you know, wandering one way as a cloud and looking at daffodils or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Elisa knows that there's an architect who taught at UT named Charles Moore that I liked a lot, and he was somebody who was known for liking kind of for mixing up styles, or for being eclectic, and for not being afraid to bring in the vernacular. And he had a very kind of gentle whimsy to him, and he had a phrase that he used to call immaculate collisions, and these were kind of places where it all mixed up: highbrow, lowbrow, serious, not serious.
That's a good description of your poetry.
Oh, thank you. And, you know, I guess it just seems like an accurate representation of the world to me. You know, like we're always surrounded by some mixture of the sacred and profane.
Yeah. So, just a couple more things. One is you've done some, we won the Adobe Paisano Fellowship, which the house is out kind of southwest of town near the Austin Zoo, kind of close to people who've been there. Can you talk, and then you've also gone to Vermont on a fellowship, and so you've done a couple writing fellowships and where you're only writing as opposed to the real world. And Vince is not a systems analyst, but
Close systems
Well,
administrator.
systems administrator,
Yeah.
okay, for UT, and he works with computers. So you do work 9 to 5, right?
Close, 12 to 8 usually.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
40
hours.
hour a week.
40 hour week.
Yeah.
What's it like to then get to go on a retreat as a poet? Or as a writer? You know, you're writing a novel for your...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like being back in college. I think when you're surrounded by people, you get to have, those long, intense conversations that you used to have before the working week came in. And you kind of become you again. I mean, not that I'm not, but you know, you're there kind of under the identity of creating. And you know, suddenly you get to share problem solving with people around you. It's a little bit weird because I think when your life is structured around a work week, it takes a while for that to die out.
How long were you at Adobe?
6 months. Yeah, and I should say that, you know, the two residency experiences that I've had have been pretty opposite. So Adobe was really, really isolated. I made it more isolated than it had to be, because I thought I was going to get a lot of work done. And I did, but it also, got to be a bit like The Shining. It was just a little too isolated, and it rained a lot, so I was flooded out a lot.
Oh, wow.
So I was literally, my Elisa remembers, there would be these 2 or 3 day periods where I couldn't get back to Austin because
Oh, my gosh.
Barton Creek was, overflowing.
And we couldn't get to you.
Yeah,
Mm.
yes, we could be. So, and Vermont, so I was alone for half a year, but then, the other extreme is, being with 80 people in 1 month in a small Vermont town, and that was just like a double summer camp. And it's really interesting. You have a lot of people who are in their 20s, up to 30, who are kind of part of the kind of academic or creative writing university world.
Mhm.
That drops off usually till about your late 40s, at which people have kind of finished parenting and are coming back to the arts. So I was kind of a rare bird there, kind of in my 40s. But that was very social. So somewhere between the two, I think you find how to use your time.
Which would you, and I know we always want to know which is better, but I know it's an unfair question, but for your creative process, which one was more supportive?
I'd go with Vermont in a heartbeat.
Really?
Yeah, I would. Because having other people around you can creatively misdirect you in a way that's really great. No, you don't really, you can go in expecting to do one thing and have, just have your life and your point of view changed by talking to people. And I think that I would much rather have that than the kind of grim, monastic march that I kind of imposed on myself. You do have a responsibility, I think, to find your writing time in the middle of all of that socializing. But I think that I'd rather negotiate that than working for 10 hours a day and, having nobody around you at the end of it.
Right. And so did any big revelations come out of Vermont, or any big chunks of work get done?
No.
Okay.
Well,
So how was it though? for you?
I came back to poetry in 2010 through a friend there. And it was very supportive, but it was all kind of refining stuff I had done already. But I think that it was a good place to keep believing that I was a writer, as my attitude toward a lot of that original stuff changed. And that was good. And it was with a lot of visual artists, and that was, I think, the real value, was being around people who were creative, but who were painting and sculpting and, you name it, and who had just a different way of thinking about creating, and who in some ways were more fluid, more spontaneous. But yeah, the gift of Adobe was that I got to generate a lot of stuff that then kind of got rewritten and refined over the following years. So that was good.
And you're done, or just about done with the manuscript that has a agent and everything?
I am through. I finished a draft of the big crazy novel that I wrote 5 years ago that I showed to an agent who was very kind about kind of reading it in its kind of everything in the kitchen sink form. and kind of said to me, what story do you really want to tell? Because there were about 7 that were kind of mixed in. And at the time that I showed it to him, I think I was closer to feeling like I wanted to create a unified field theory for the family. You know, like it was going to be this big, tricky, cloud atlas kind of book that jumped all over time and creation. And I think that there's a place for that. But I think that it was good to have to simplify it. And that is what I have spent about the last 3 or 4 years doing, kind of finding what that story was going to be, and then finally just getting it written.
And just out of curiosity, did it lose heft or gain heft in a different manner?
It lost a lot of heft.
Yeah.
It's pretty slim. Getting bigger, but slim. It was good to kind of take a bunch of fragments and have to line them up and fill them out. And I think it also forced me to kind of go deeper into one character.
Oh.
And this character is my granddad, who I never knew, but he was schizophrenic during the 1940s and 50s, and the craziness of the book had been jumping around a lot, and what it forced me to do was to bring all of that back to him and to be more nuanced. Instead of being kind of performative and big, I had to be more psychological, I think, and not treat him as just a crazy person, but at one point was slipping in and out of a grip on reality of the world, and I'm glad that I had to do that.
And so when are you going to send it out?
Beginning of June.
Beginning of June, a couple months.
Yeah.
Okay, so and does it have a working title?
The working title is called Latins.
Latins, okay.
Latins.
Well, we've probably talked enough, and everybody wants to hear the poetry.